So to create a digital response to this Swissted poster by Mike Joyce, we're going to open up Illustrator. So File, New, and when you open up Illustrator, you don't need to set the resolution like you do in Photoshop. So you're going to go into Print, choose A3. You can choose the orientation if it's going to be landscape or portrait. How many artboards there are. This is different to Photoshop because you can have more than one artboard open at the same time. We're just going to start with one. And then when you create, you have an artboard. There are tools on the left, just like Photoshop, although some are a bit different, and you're going to learn more about them this academic year. And then you've got your Windows panels over here, which anything that's not ticked on the menu bar at the top, you can also bring up. And you can set this to however you want. You can drag things out as well. Left clicking, dragging out, clicking back in, and laying out your windows how you need to use it. So this example uses two shapes, a circle and a rectangle, with a fill and a stroke. It's pretty simple. Unlike in Photoshop where you have a foreground and a background color, here you have a fill and a stroke. And you can use the same shortcut X to switch between them. You're going to choose your shape tool, M. I'm going to choose an ellipse. You have to hold Shift to keep your ellipse as a circle rather than an elliptical shape. So holding Shift, and at the moment this shape is filled. If I switch that, it now becomes a stroke, and at the top you can also change it between nothing, white with a red diagonal, or the stroke. You can change the stroke thickness. You can do other things as well, but we're not going to go into those today. And as you can see in this design, the strokes are all the same thickness. So I'm going to choose stroke 7. And if I click I, the eyedropper tool, I can also choose the digital color that's here. I'm going to switch that back to the stroke. I can drop down to 7, or I can input it here. I can just write 7. And it will set that to 7. If you notice in this design, the gaps between each stroke circle is identical. So to create your own shapes another way, rather than just clicking and dragging, and you just create a shape by eye, you can click on the shape, and instead of clicking and dragging, just click, and then you can input the exact amount you want. So if I put 50 by 50, it's now made a 50 by 50 circle. If I then click again and put 40 by 40, and you get the idea. I'll do the same for a few more. You might be thinking, well, why have you put these all here? You're going to find out in a minute. So now that I've got all my shapes, this one I'm going to switch to be a fill. So with it selected, in Illustrator you have two selection tools, the black and the white arrow. Direct selection and the selection tool. Direct selection, for example, if these are all connected, I can click that one, then go back to the normal tool and move that one on its own. I can click and drag over as well to select things, so that's what I'm going to do. With these all here, I'm going to, with the selection tool, black arrow, click, drag my selection box, and you can see what you've selected under the transparency as well. You can see window transparency. That's what I've selected. They're all over the place. I need to line them up. So there should also be an alignment panel, which is also under window align. If I bring up the alignment panel, you have different options here. You can align things horizontal center, horizontal left, right, vertical center, left, right, bottom, top, etc. So I'm going to horizontal align center. Now everything is in this central line. And then I'm going to center align vertically. And as you can see, it's now perfectly created that shape. This one I want to switch to a fill. So just switch back to a fill. Now they're all separate. So if you select all of them with the selection tool and right click, you can do lots of different things here, but you can just group it. So the next time I click one of them, it now selects all of them, and I can move them together. I can still scale them up and down, holding Shift to whatever size I want. That's the first step, creating one of the shapes Now I'm going to try the other shape, which is a simple square. Choose the color. Make sure you're not selected on a shape, so click off. So you've not got any blue boxes. Each layer has a color, so when you add new layers and then you add something to a new layer, it will be a different color when you click around it. This one's the blue layer, layer 1. Very useful to work in different layers, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do a new layer. Well, I'm going to stick to this layer because I want to merge them. So click on this, make sure it's the stroke, click rectangle. I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to go 50 by 50, click off here. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'm just going to do some of it. Select those again, align, center, vertical center. Right click, group. Hold space, click and drag to move around. Hold Alt, use the wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out where your mouse is. And unlike Photoshop, you also have this grey workspace. Anything you do on here won't print, but you can use this whole grey workspace to develop ideas and then bring them into the printing section of your artboard. Your artboard can also be any shape you want. You can make artboards. We're going to do that later on in the year. So now that I've got these two, I'm also going to create a background. Choose the color and choose a rectangle. And this rectangle is in front. So if you click it, left click, right click to then choose arrange and send to back. That'll go to the back of everything on that layer. If I bring this over, currently it's behind the green. I'm going to right click, arrange, bring to front. So now it's in front of the green. If I click on this shape, I now want to blend the edges. So if I go to transparency or window transparency, just like in Photoshop, you now have basically a layers panel which has a blend mode. If I choose multiply, it's now created that blend mode. So it's blended this red with this green to make this darker maroon, just like in the example. So that's how you can create that section.